see what I can do for you. Good luck out there.
Done, Savior? Oh no, it has only begun.
I can't do this just yet.
Greetings. You've sent the traitor to meet his ancestors, have you? That'll be an interesting conversation. I'm no Hatungo, but I can foresee Utula walking a long road of trial and suffering before he earns himself a place at the ancestors' table. And just as Utula's journey continues, so does yours, right into the jaws of Kitava. I don't profess to understand the mind of a god, but I know the stories. Kitava is patient. He waited in the darkest pit of Hinekore's realm. He will bide his time while his hunger spreads like the plague it is, and when his tribe is replenished 100 times over, Kitava will rise one final time to finish the feast that he has started. Oriath is merely the appetizer. There's a whole world out there for Kitava to taste. You've proved that you're a hero who can slay legends. Let's see if you can kill a god. Remember, we do this for freedom.
Hello.
The High Priest is dead, yet the object of his devotion remains. There's no doubt you did all right bringing that man-turned-monster to heel, but you weren't able to stop him fishing his master out of a river of blood. Damn. Sorry. I never could get the hang of boosting morale. Didn't seem right to polish the edges off harsh facts. Probably why I never made captain. Still, I've been poking around here for a bit and have turned up Utula's stash. Quite the magpie he was. So here, help yourself. When it comes to hunting a god, I suppose every little bit helps. Don't ever give up. Good luck out there.
Can't do this just yet.
Remember, we do this for freedom. Yes? For freedom.
just yet. My spirits are spent.
the truth of this world.
Arohongui, daughter of the moon, was preparing for a feast to celebrate Tukohama's return from his war on the first ones of the Ezamites. Tafor, son of the forest, asked each of the birds to sacrifice one of their kind for the feast. He gave these offerings to Arohongui, who cooked them in a great fire-stone pit. Seeing all of those plump birds cooking made Kitava very hungry, and he offered to watch them, to make sure they didn't burn while Arohongui rested during the heat of the day. Arohongui thanked Kitava for his kindness, but while she slept, Kitava ate the cooking birds, flesh, bones, gizzards and all. Upon waking, Arohongui was furious to find that Kitava had lied to her, for saying that he would watch the birds when he truly intended to eat them all up. When Tukohama arrived home in his mighty canoe, Arohongui asked him to punish Kitava for his selfish gluttony. Tukohama, our father of war, agreed and pulled the sharpest tooth from his own mouth. He then asked Arohongui and Tafor to hold Kitava fast while he cut Kitava's face with the tooth. 2 slashes that blinded Kitava and formed a bleeding cross upon his face. From that day forth, Kitava would never be able to promise to watch that which he truly intended to consume. To replace the feast of birds that Kitava had greedily consumed, Tukohama, our father of war, and Valako, father of storm, went fishing. Although Kitava was blind, he could still cast his line and feel when a fish took his bait. So Tukohama and Valako took him with them on Tukohama's mighty canoe. But while they fished, Kitava grew hungry and secretly ate all of their bait of grubs and worms. Disgusted and angry, Tukohama and Valako decided to use Kitava as bait instead. Valako used his own jawbone as a hook, impaled Kitava on it, and cast both into the sea. Kitava sank to the bottom of the sea. But instead of the fish eating Kitava, it was Kitava who ate all of the fish that nibbled at him, flesh, scales, guts, and all. When Tukohama and Valako hauled a fat-bellied Kitava back up from the sea, they were even more furious and knew that Kitava must be punished one final time.
guiding light.
Freedom comes to those who fight. Once Kitava has got... Remember, we do this for freedom. Hello. Remember, we do this for freedom.
believe in traveling light.
Freedom comes to them. For freedom. Yes. Remember, we do this for freedom.
took Kitava to Hinekora, mother of death. They asked her to kill the greedy Kitava, for surely their tribe would starve if Kitava continued to live among them. But Hinekora refused, for death would not teach Kitava the lesson he needed to learn. Instead, Hinekora beat Kitava with a whip woven of her own hair. To Kitava, each strand was a searing lash, and so he wore thousands and thousands of blistering lashes across his back, as Hinekora drove him relentlessly into the darkest corner of the underworld. There she left him to suffer, without water or food, for the rest of eternity. And there Kitava remained, in the darkness of Hinekora's night-clad island, for time beyond measure. There he suffered, waiting for the day that he could return to the world of light, to slake his scorching thirst and satiate his ravening hunger.
Not all slaves believe Dutula's lies. Some I know have managed to steal a ship and are soon to set sail for Namakanui. Hopefully, with these treasures on board, Valakor will bless their voyage and breathe deeply into their sails. No, I'm not going with them. I helped bring this curse down upon Oriath, so I'll help save what little there is left to save. Here, take something. in thanks for your part in preserving the Karui Way. For freedom.
Whatever happened to a good old-fashioned graveyard? I believe in traveling light.
Yes, freedom comes to those.
You can ask.
What do you need? Don't ever give up.
Greetings. For free hello.
This feels like power.
An empire is nothing more than a standard pitched in the naked earth. The time has come for you to raise the standard upon the peak of false faith, the apex of Chitta's cathedral. Drive it deep into that sacred stone. Mark the death of a faithless empire and slay the slavering kingdom that seeks to consume it. An empire is...
I could hardly hope for better results.
Hello. Remember, we do this.
What is it?
I'm here to serve as best I can.
seems a good time to question my life decisions.
Flicker, but it cannot be extinguished. There is no shame in falling to a god. Shame lies only in refusing to rise again. You shall soar. That much I'm permitted to foresee. You shall ascend to the peak of your loftiest mistake, and from there you shall pluck a single surviving hope from the jaws of immortal despair. A ship sails for Lion Eye's watch not far from here. Be on it. There is no shame.
Is this what losing a fight feels like? Ugh.
You're still alive. So is Kitava. What more do you need to know? You'll find a way. I believe it. For freedom.
Kitava is a primal deity, forged from the most fundamental of human desires, hunger. The simple act of craving that which we cannot yet consume. To defeat Kitava is to squeeze the very heart of human nature into stillness. You don't think you can do that? I suppose we'll see, won't we? Toodles.
I don't ask this in the name of innocence. He understands now the folly his devotees have wrought upon this world. I ask in the name of Oriath. There are many that deserve what Kitava offers, and there are many more who do not. Put an end to Kitava's savage reign, for there remains much in this land that is worth saving. Good luck out there.
I'm Captain Lily Roth, and we sail for Rayclast. Better to live in exile than die on this psychotic bonfire of an island. You want to make it out of here, you'd better get on board. But make it quick, 'cause I ain't got time for tears and regrets. Remember, this ain't no charity run. You owe me. Cast off! All right, we're safe for the time being. Now let me introduce myself properly. Lily Roth. Yep, I'm one of those Roths. Some call me smuggler, others pirate. Yeah, I prefer the sound of nautical entrepreneur. Came up with that one myself. So you come see Lily if you need something, or even if you just fancy a good chat with a lovely lady. Don't think I'd be forgetting that favour you owe to me. In fact, now I think of it, there's certainly a way you can be repaying this most considerable debt. You see, those blasted cultists have been plundering the refugee ships trying to escape Oriath. And if not for my incomparable skill as a sea captain, we'd have met the same fate. But now the drowned dead are washing ashore, and they ain't staying dead. There's been a whole lot of blood, sweat and tears getting these few lucky survivors here in one piece. What sort of captain would I be if I let them get ripped apart by walking corpses? Wipe the Twilight Strand clean of those filthy undead bastards and I'll call us even. Might even throw in a little something extra if you can pull it off. Don't think I'd be forgetting that. Waylon Roth. Here, let me share something I remember from me granddaddy's stories. No sooner had the others turned in fear from the great white Leviathan did Waylon load the ballista with his final harpoon. And right then he vowed to sea and sky that he and he alone would be the one to finally kill this bastard son of the Brine King. The ballista fired and the harpoon smote that creature right between the ribs as it made to dive back under the angry sea. Thick clouds of blood bloomed beneath the waves, roses flowering in the black water, and impossible though it seemed, the already shadowed ocean grew darker still. He used the bones of the great beast to reinforce the hull of his ship, the Black Crest. Old Rottooth, he's a true legend, a real pirate hero. I can only hope one day my own stories will reach his ears and make him proud of the granddaughter he had to leave behind. That scallywag. I reckon Bestel thinks I'd be the kind of lass who'll bed down with any sort of rascal. Not too far off, I guess. He is rather sweet, but not the most comely of figures. Actually, he kind of reminds me of my grandfather, Waylon Roth, a poet and scoundrel extraordinaire he be. Bestel's but spittle from the mouth of old Rottooth Roth. Ahem. Bust my blind cheeks, said the sailor to the doxy. She sports her dairy treats afar and relishes her moxie. But a fire ship will sink the broken 'neath the ocean waves. Tip nutmegs a deadly token sends captains to their graves. Yeah, I knew Tarkley, if you catch me drift. He's got no time for his old bunkmate these days, though. Too gaga-eyed over his lost cause of a fishwife Nessa. Time was, Tarkley and I would smuggle all about the coast of Oriath. Oh, good days they was. Sweet with rum, nothing but the wind and salt in our faces, freedom in our hearts, and the law on our tails. But I could tell he were getting ready to make feet for children's stockings with me, so I cut him loose. Not a spark's chance under the ocean the dreaded Lily Roth's gonna wind up swelling like some drowned carcass. Still, nice to work with that bugger one more time, just for old time's sake, you know? Time and tide wait for no man.
Despite your best efforts, Beastslayer, a splinter of hope remains. The very seed that brought my beast into existence. The Dark Ember. Never again shall it birth a life so magnificent as the beast. Yet a residue of that power still lingers. Enough to give us a fighting chance against the ravenous Kitava. How do we obtain this Dark Ember? 3 hearts were silenced. 3 hearts must sing again, one last time. In that final flickering of life, our savior's seed shall be born. All I need are 3 fine souls with which to stoke the flames. Chevron of Umbra, Inquisitor Maligaro, Dodri the Dark Tongue. 3 spirits of near unfathomable resilience and vigor, freed with the beast's final exhalation. So let us begin the harvest. Chevron has come home to Axiom. We shall give her the warm welcome she sincerely deserves. I shall put this simply, for in truth, everything comes down to the simple act of planting a seed in the ground. The gods are rising because you slew the one creature that prevented them from doing so. Your name for it is the Beast. It was I who planted the seed in the rich soil beneath Highgate, who nurtured it, who watched it bloom into maturity, even as I succumbed to its mollifying powers. We gods, we were driven into slumbering darkness, to dream away eternity whilst the gentle beast watched over us. I would desire that we return to that blissful state, but my brothers and sisters of deism shall never submit to banishment. They have tasted freedom once more, and they shall not let go of this world until it is pried from their cold, dead hands. The beast was never a cruel master. It didn't want to destroy, to corrupt, to terrorize. It simply existed to exist. I made it that way. Unfortunately, in neglecting to provide it with ambition, I made it vulnerable to the ambitions of others. Queen Atziri and Doriani, Emperor Chittus and Malachi. Others even before them. I created a beast that would free humanity from the tyranny of the gods. Yet all I really did was provide the perfect tool with which humanity could tyrannize itself. If she is to be of any use to us, the Umbra's spirit must be wrenched from her mortal manifestation and lashed to our greater cause. That is your task. For my part, I shall negotiate the terms of her cooperation. With a tragic kiss and lasting embrace, her essence shall pass into me as if she were a sweet breath from the mouth of my lover. It is a sacrosanct sacrifice for all involved. Thankfully for you, all I ask is that you do what you clearly do best. Kill. Ambition is the bane of mortality. It was through ambition that we gods transcended the thick mud and thin blood of our mundane birthrights. Ambition that drove us to sustain our divine selves through the subjugation of others. Chevron's soul is made up of 1 part ambition and 2 parts raw, unbounded passion. Such a volatile spark shall burn briefly and brightly, and even the most deadened of hearts. Despite your best efforts, farewell.
I've never been one for history class.
Maramo of Namakanui, you have transgressed. Hilak of Slow, You have transgressed against your God and your fellow man. You have been a willing vessel for the following sins. Mortal wrath, 6 counts of common homicide, 1 count of infanticide, 2 counts of homicide with post-mortem desecration, unlawful avarice, 12 counts of extortion through threat of mortal harm, 7 counts of armed larceny, 2 counts of armed larceny resulting in mortal harm, unsolicited lust, 4 counts of rape, 2 counts of attempted rape, mortal wrath, 1 count of rape resulting in mortality. God has charged me with your redemption. You are hereby exiled to Reclast, where it is hoped you shall come to repent your sins and make your peace with your beloved father. Maromor of Namakanui. Hadri of Dayton, you have transgressed against your God and your fellow man. You have been a willing vessel for the following sins. Theosophical vanity. 1 count of public heresy. 1 count of challenging the authority of a church official. God has charged me with your redemption. You are hereby exiled to Reclast, where it is hoped you shall come to repent your sins and make your peace with your beloved father. Ender of Romsey, Carling of Murfield, Salem of Theopolis, Hadri of Dayton, Olin of Theopolis, Creighton of Theopolis. You have transgressed against your God and your fellow man. You have been a willing vessel for the following sins. Unlawful avarice, 2 counts of grand larceny of church property, 7 counts of grand larceny of private property, 9 counts of extortion through threat of mortal harm, 4 counts of armed robbery, pecuniary sloth, being unwilling to obtain an occupation of value to society, enticing citizens into conduct of a wanton and depraved nature, civil envy, 2 counts of blackmailing a church official, 8 counts of attempting to corrupt a member of the Ebony Legion, 2 counts of inciting the public to riotous behavior, unlawful vanity, 18 counts of verbal abuse of a church official, 27 counts of verbal abuse of an officer of the Ebony Legion, 8 counts of publicly promoting unlawful and lecherous practices, narcotic gluttony, 13 counts of supplying narcotic substances, 4 counts of cultivating narcotic substances, 1 count of public obscenity whilst under the influence of narcotic substances, pecuniary lust, 9 counts of pandering, 2 counts of directing an establishment of ill repute, 6 counts of prostitution involving unholy and degrading acts, mercantile wrath, 11 counts of common homicide for pecuniary gain, 4 counts of homicide of an officer of the Ebony Legion for pecuniary gain, 2 counts of episcopicide for pecuniary gain, 1 count of matricide for pecuniary gain. God has charged me with your redemption. You are hereby exiled to Reclast, where it is hoped you shall come to repent your sins and make your peace with your beloved father.
Now there's a pair of eyes I could never forget. If the tales are true, those peepers of yours have seen all the wonders of Reclast by now. And a few things they likely wish they hadn't. Oh, and no need for us to speak of Oriarth. My ears are brimful with the sorrows these wretched companions of yours have been spilling. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that Lion Eyes Watch has seen better days. Our once bubbling township has, alas, become a brooding quagmire of gloom and despair. I blame the unrelenting weather. As you know, I am both a humanitarian and a strong believer in the soul-sustaining power of story. Back when I was still captain of the Merry Gull, many days at sea afforded me time to work on my thespian aspirations. I wrote a theatrical epic, a one-man show entitled Cedric and the Buxom Stranger. I sealed the manuscript inside a roll of oiled leather and stashed it in the hold for safekeeping. Perhaps you could salvage it for me from that tidal island upon which my poor ship came to rest. Who knows? Maybe we can bring some joy back to Lion Eye's Watch with a bit of live entertainment. Now there's a sorry tale, more miserable than any dirge I've ever heard. Nessa's gone. Wandered off into the night, muttering to herself about dancing to his ditty. No, I didn't go after her. In truth, she was gone when I woke up the next morn. I only imagined she'd be muttering, you see, on account of the murmuring she's been making these past few weeks. Always the same, about him and his song, whoever in damnation he is. You won't find a sailor that doesn't whisper a quiet prayer to the Brine King before casting off. In fact, under the maddening radiance of a full moon, the more superstitious captains would drown some poor slave or failed mutineer just to keep old Tsoagoth happy. No, that wasn't a sneeze. That's a fish god's old Asmerian name. It's considered foul luck to speak it on board a ship. A keel-hauling offence. Yes, we live in curious times indeed. A time when old stories are being birthed, mewling and puking into our world of dirt and blood. It's all a bit inspiring, really. Hence, I've written a little something. Ancient anecdotes now wake from their beds, looming in our fears, towering above our heads. Age-old lusts and bygone greeds, walking and reeking as humanity pleads. Rivers of history, lakes of blood, the gods stand upon us as we cower in the mud. Lily Roth, granddaughter of the legendary Rottooth Roth. Oh, apologies if I seem a little giddy. It's not any old day you get to meet marine royalty. I mean, you know how I feel about pirates and all, but the Roths have as much in common with those scurvy sea rats as a shark does with a goldfish. Lily has her granddaddy's blood in her veins. It's plain for all to see. Look at the luster in her eyes, the ruddy blush of her skin. That there's a pirate princess, and no mistake. You'll not find a more renowned pirate as Walem Rocktooth Roth. In times when Fairgraves was still a whelp earning his sea legs, Rocktooth was prowling the Strait of Orioth in his ship, the Black Crest. It's said he built it himself, lining its hull with the bones of some great sea beast he slew with nothing but a harpoon and a bottle of rum. Never was there a more nimble, more ferocious vessel, like that Leviathan's spirit still lived and breathed in its timbers. No one sighted Rocktooth for 20 years or more, but I know where the Black Crest is. The ship graveyard, no less. Seems that Walem Roth might have had his last meal with Lady Mervale.
Yes? My apologies, Exile, but I'm waiting for someone. Perhaps you could attend to the needs of the others here. I'll be here when you need me.
First we hear that Oriath has lost its bloody mind, and then you turn up. Doesn't take a scholar to work out how these two events might be connected. I don't know what's going on out there, and I probably wouldn't understand it if I saw it with my own two eyes. What I do know is this. The world we knew, it's gone. But now we have to do our damnedest to make sure we don't go with it. Nessa. I saw her one night, running out across the coast, headed in the direction of the mudflats. Called out to her, but she didn't even turn her head. Maybe she couldn't hear me. Maybe she didn't want to. I don't bloody know. I tried to run after her, but she'd vanished into the darkness before my feet had barely touched the sand. So I tracked her, all the way to the mudflats, and that's when her tracks, they just stopped. No sign of meeting someone or something. No sign of a struggle. It's like one moment she was running and the next, gone. Look, I've heard some things about what you've done. Things that beg a belief. Now you can do this. Please. Find Nessa. Bring her back to us. Those shambling nobles out there on the strand? They left Oriath to die a bloody death, rats fleeing a sinking ship. Seems they learned a bit of the hard truth, though. Doesn't matter how much money you have, you can't outrun death when it comes for you. Can't say they've actually noticed, though. They're still the same flesh-eating bastards they've always been. Just a bit more obvious about it now. Never took much stock in the stories Lily told. Didn't sit right. Those full moon sacrifices her and her ilk would do out on the open water. But now, in light of everything, I'm obliged to reconsider. If it meant Nessa might be spared the attentions of that wretched Brine King, I'd even be inclined to slit a mutineering throat or two myself. I wonder how much Lily squeezed out of those refugees from Oriath. Yes, she did risk her life and ship to save them, but I knew the Lily of old, a damn fine smuggler. And that Lily never did a good deed that didn't also turn a profit. I had a life before Lion Eye's watch. Not much of one by some people's standards, but it was good enough for me. Lily and I, we'd smuggle a bit of booze to keep our purses full. We were good at it, too. Made us a fine partnership, her quick mind and my steady nerves, right up until the day she left me drunk and trussed on Penance Quay. By the time the blackguards unwrapped their present, she was halfway to Trathus. That's how I ended up here. Yes, it smarts a bit to look at her, but what right have I to say where the flotsam finally washes up? Stay sharp out there. Farewell.
Back to where it all began.
One person's beginning is another person's end. I wonder what your
There'll be time for that soon enough.
Welcome. Stay sharp out there.
hear the clink of markers in your pockets. Claimed from one of your victims. Or perhaps the victim of one of your victims. It is impossible to know how far back that chain could unwind, but now they belong to you. And you seem to be in good health. To the victor, etc. It seems you are the one I have patiently waited for. Yes, you will do just fine. Take a marker in your hand, speak these words into your mind. The ring binds us all, and to all within I shall do no harm. I will see you soon. Anytime. Welcome, Exile, to the Ring. I am Kurai. While you are here, you will do no harm to any of its members. You are a guest of the Ring, and the boss has no tolerance for guests who do not obey his rules. What goes around comes around, if you will excuse the aphorism. Take your time and look around. Introduce yourself to the others here. When you are ready, find me. The Ring has a job for you, if you are willing. The Ring operates outside whatever semblance of the law remains out here. But lawlessness does not exclude civility, and does not need to create chaos. If someone is intent on taking what is not theirs, better to have a professional handle it, and avoid unnecessary violence and confusion. The Ring is contracted by those who seek a solution to the misallocation of resources. We assign members based on the needs of the job, and we take a small cut. Everyone wins, other than the target of our work. What is valuable to you or I may not be valuable to the boss or Faustus. Where you see a worthless trinket, another may see a precious heirloom, or the final piece in a lifelong collection. Contracts allow our clients to hire the Ring to pursue goods that hold no objective value on the client's behalf. Sometimes that value comes from knowing the original owner no longer has it. The Ring makes few moral judgments on what it is hired to obtain. So long as it is not breathing and it is not liable to put the entire Ring at risk, we will not turn a contract down, and neither should you. The Ring operates based on favors. Markers allow us to track those favors, and to ensure no one is taking advantage of, or being taken advantage of, by any other Ring member. They are also how you got here. You'll excuse me if that seemed obvious. At times I must deal with people whose talents are not intellectual in nature. The boss is an extraordinarily busy man, so I enact his orders and allocate tasks to members as needed on his behalf. I am, for all intents and purposes, his administrator. If you have any issues, please take them to me, and I can raise it with the boss when he is available. I do not like to talk about my younger days, except to say that I did what I had to in order to survive. And I am glad that time is behind me. A king is human, mortal, vulnerable to the same temptations and vices as are we all. A legend lives on for as long as it is told, its meaning and message shifting to fit the needs of the speaker or the audience. Colm seems to have found himself stuck somewhere in the middle. The greatest lesson to take away from the story of the fallen Karui king is this: a leader is nothing without the loyalty of their followers. And I suppose that those followers should still have their heads attached. It takes a lot to surprise me, but I must admit, I did not expect to contend with the divine in my lifetime. It goes to show that there's a seed of truth in every story. Dominus was a terrible human being, but the ring owes a great debt to him. Without his overzealous exilings, the ring would not have a rich pool of talent to draw upon. The boss himself learned a great deal about the power of anonymity and mythos from Dominus, lessons he employs today. Stay safe.
Round here, people call me Tibbs. Not the quietest little sneak, and I'm not exactly nimble with these big sausage fingers. But if you find yourself on the wrong side of something heavy, you wish you thought to hire me. Heard the boss got his start as a stable boy in the Grand Arena. Used to feed and care for the chariot horses. That was his first job, and it led to his first, job. Apparently, someone asked him to slip something into the feed of the Octavius family's finest stallion, greatly favoured to win the race. Paid him a week's worth of his normal wages. Boss figured it was some sort of poison, so he watched the man place a bet and poisoned that horse as well. Neither died, but neither won. And the boss, betting his wages on a horse he knew to be fit as a gladiator, took home a killing. Of course, that was also his last day of gainful employment at the arena. The man stalked those stables for months trying to find him.
I'm cast. Rather than waste my youth reading, I put that time to better use. Now I can pick just about any lock you're likely to come across. A man of style, the boss. A thief, of course, wants to be rich and live a life of luxury. But once you hit a certain point of wealth, I imagine you might be motivated by other things. Apparently, the boss was living very comfortably indeed, but felt the need to challenge himself. He entered the first bank of Theopolis in the middle of the day, entered the vault, and just started moving stuff around. Octavius' family fortunes into the Maxia's deposit box. Avarius riches split across every small safe, each of which he popped open as if there weren't even a lock on him. Mixing all the money up like it were caught in the tides. Then he goes and finds the records of deposits and withdrawals and sets them on fire. Walks out like nothing happened. Well, of course the bank puts the fire out, but the records are gone. So they notify all the big customers, telling them to come in with their copy of the deposit slips, and wouldn't you know it, they're gone too. No bloody idea how he pulled it off. Of course, the bank and all the clients will deny it ever happened. Be foolish not to. Good chat.
Got something needs made or unmade? I can take them apart as fast as I put them together, sometimes faster. Or is it the other way around? I've had an idea just now for a spinning device that... Oh yes, my name is Isla. I'm an engineer. Welcome. The boss? Oof, it's inefficient to ask about the boss, believe me. You'll go round and round a spinning gear in a machine made of secret parts. The one thing you should never rely on is a mechanism you don't understand. It's liable to implode or explode. Neither is pretty when your arse is sitting up on it hoping to fly somewhere. The boss put in an order for an air sail once for a job. Impossible, I told Curai. Turned out it worked. It just didn't go with the poor sod we hired. It stayed with us in flames while he took to the skies. He achieved a perfect parabolic arc right onto the tower we were aiming for. Survived the trip too, judging by the screaming. But getting back down, the boss never ordered a falling machine. That's on him. Gotta think things through, mind you. Think it through.
Talamoana and good tidings. I'm Fakano, though most people know me as the barber. If you need a trim and tidy, then take a seat. But a little fishy told me you may be more interested in a conversation than a cut. A man like myself, traveling around as much as I do, hears a lot of things. Everyone needs their haircut once in a while, and I am a very attentive listener. Some of the things I hear could be very lucrative to people with certain, shall we say, unscrupulous ambitions. Drop a few markers in the tip jar, and I may accidentally drop some of my meticulously well-kept notes. Interesting man. Very interesting indeed. Careless as the day he came into this world. No need for a man of my trade, you see. Yet bald as he may be, he knows the value of a good barber. No one here knows much about the boss's past, except maybe Kurai. And she won't tell you much, not even for a mountain of markers. Loyalty is the most valuable currency. And she and the boss have a lifetime supply. I tried to find out what I could. Conflicting tales of a smuggler kingpin, a Theopolan aristocrat, and strange enough, a retired arena champion. Then Kurai told me to stop sniffing around, else I end up like the last barber. Or maybe she said I'll end up the last barber. Either way, I value my life and my work more than I value gossiping about an old, bald gladiatorial smuggler. Troubling news coming out of Oriath. I know you weren't just involved, but smack dab in the middle of things. I also know you aren't to blame. Not directly, anyway. Still, you might imagine that I feel some animosity about the whole situation. Not least of all because the presence of Kitava is quite literally a doomsday scenario for my people. I trust you'll sort it out. Because if you don't, we're through. And I don't just mean no more business. Let's say you're a wealthy Oriathan slave merchant. You're out there selling people to other people, really raking in the coin off the back of racial divides. Then one day, those people you've been selling start killing the people you've been selling them to. That's gotta be bad for business, right? Time to cut your losses? Sadly, no. Slavers have had their pride badly bruised. They're out there, right now, looking for Karui men, women, even children, and kidnapping them. No one's heard from the Taken since. You think they're getting sold to new owners? Not a chance. They're being tortured, murdered. The slavers see this as revenge, but it is nothing more than evil for evil's sake. A lot of bad things have come from the rise of Kitava. But this, for me, this is the worst. The rebellion was a long time coming, if you ask me. What you did. And if you ask me what you didn't, I reckon the bloodshed was inevitable. The gods rising up? That one, I will admit, took me by surprise. So now the Karui are sailing back home. Good. But anger has a tendency to linger like a bad smell, and the enslaved are justifiably angry. It may take a long time before that anger fades. It may never. Bye.
Oh, another green footpad. The turnover here. Listen carefully, for I do not like to repeat myself. My name is Faustus. I am your fence. If you have something of value, you come to me. Understood? Every other day, we have some brain-dead upstart who thinks they could circumvent the system. Oh, they go gallivanting around proclaiming the founder, Gilded Wonder or some such. Either the Templar or another less charitable organization gets wind of it, and we never see them again. Well, sometimes we see parts of them, usually on a pike or smeared across the ground at the base of the towers. I am here for a reason. I am your protector. I am what stands between you and a very short life as a fugitive. I am your plausible deniability. Follow the rules, and you will grow wealthy and stay healthy. A fence like myself provides a thief like yourself the means to offload ill-gotten goods for something you'll find more useful. In this case, markers. I take those goods and sell them to the nobility for something I find more useful: coin and prestige. As a captain in the Navy, it's not entirely unusual to confiscate illicit goods from pirates and smugglers, and the nobility happily reward me for retrieving their valuables from the hands of evil. Oh, sometimes I'll even return it pro bono, if the owner's station may afford me certain privileges down the road. The job carries with it certain risks, but were a thief such as yourself to try to speak out against me, well, you'd only be incriminating yourself in the process. It'll be your word against mine. And who is a judge more likely to believe? It's awful business what happened to Oriath. Terrible, just terrible. I was lucky, safely out at sea with my crew. I hope those responsible are held accountable, barring those with whom I have ongoing business, of course. I suspect they were merely in the wrong place at the wrong time. Can't blame someone for having rotten luck. The boss. The big man. The man of 1,000 faces. Or no face, depending on who you ask. He's cultivated quite the reputation. I fancy myself a connoisseur of the truth, and I have yet to hear a story about the boss that has the wondrous ring to it that only true stories have. But, well, I have certain connections, and those connections have certain connections who have turned up some very striking truths about this mysterious figure. I'm not about to run my mouth to a thief, but let me tell you, those definitely not true stories you keep hearing, the truth is even stranger. Farewell!
I am Adia. You may rely on me for travel to and from locations of interest. I once served a worthy Sekama. The boss is no Sekama. He rules through deception, obfuscation, and manipulation. However, if he agrees to do something, he will do it. That in itself is a form of honor, which I can respect. He expects the same of us. In exchange for a place here, I have agreed to use my skills to enable the travels of this wretched heap of Roadang. And that is what I will do. My word is my bond. Remain vigilant.
A client wishes to utilize our services. The boss would like to offer you the opportunity to assist member cast on this job. There is room yet in the ring if you can handle the work. The details are on the contract. I suggest you review it before you set off. Speak to Adia when you are ready. She will get you within range of the mark. And try to keep your partner safe so he may do what he is best at. Cast is not as tough as he believes, but the boss has never seen another lockpick as talented. Stay safe.
Hello, rookie. Found a few markers, did you? Apparently the boss sees something in you, but we won't know for sure till you're on the wrong side of a lance. I'm Cast, and there's not a lock in this world that I can't open. All you have to do is make sure I live long enough to open them. Ardia will get us to the job, and I'll show you the ropes. Don't get tangled in them, because it ain't my job to cut you free. Later, Rook.
What do you need? What do you need?
Yeah. All right. You're pretty quiet, eh, Exile? Yeah, you're pretty quiet. Good quality in a thief. Hear that? We ain't alone. Place is crawling with guards. You're here to make sure they don't kill us both. The best of you. The best of you. You get this right there. Easy. I'll pick any locks that get in our way. You keep me alive. Yeah? I've got the best of you. That's what I'm here for. Consider your actions here. We don't want too much attention. Blink, and you'll miss it.
The stink of victory.
Who put you in a bad mood? down or else. Might need to bail soon. This door. Grab it so we can get out of here. Grab what you can and head out. Back the way we came, rookie. Yeah, I know.
I can't do this just yet.
We're still breathing, Rook. So you ain't done half bad. Take that urn to Faustus, yeah? He'll sort you out.
I hope you enjoyed your first job. Cast spoke highly of you. Well, he did not outright speak poorly of you, which for Cast means a great deal. The items you procure should be exchanged with Faustus for markers. In addition to allowing entry onto Ring premises, markers can be redeemed with the residents of the Ring for various goods and services, including blueprints. Please do not hesitate to speak to me if you need further elucidation. I suggest you return to your ordinary duties, whatever they may be, until another contract crosses your path. Though contracts allow the Ring to keep spinning, we are skilled professionals, and skilled professionals wish to test the limits of their skills. The Ring has obtained the layouts of locations known to hold objects of great value. Naturally, these locations are heavily protected and patrolled, and to pull off a job in such a location requires a team. The boss is happy to provide blueprints for these highly secure locations and access to the skills and resources needed to strip such a location bare. For a price. Complete contracts, earn markers, and you will be able to utilize those services. Stay safe.
What are you after?
What you need?
Sorry, what?
What are you after?
Greetings.
I'll get it where it needs to go. Completed your first contract? Well, nearly. A contract isn't technically complete until the goods are in the hands of the client. You give me the urn, and I'll give you the markers you've earned. I yearn for the urn to give you what you've earned. What fun. Don't go spending your markers all in one place. That, my friend, is a little joke. You see, they're only good here, so to imply you could spend them elsewhere is very humorous indeed. I like you, Exile. Don't do anything stupid and ruin that. Good luck to you.
Still working on. Hello, Exile. What? No, I was never there. Hello, Exile. How you going? Still working on that poem, Exile.
A wretched sight. So many drowned Oriathans cast into undeath. You freed them from their torment, and I'm sure they'd be grateful. Here, that little something extra I were talking about. Though the sea takes away, it gives back in greater measure. While you be skulking about, I've managed to do a bit of hunting on my own. Got a hole full of baubles and trinkets here, which I managed to, procure. Take a look. You might find something particularly naughty to help you on your life's voyage. You have the look of a wayfarer about you. I've a few bits and bobs in the hold that I managed to salvage from Oriath. Might be you're in the market for a little insurance for the road. The sort of nautical charm or a quaff of tonic be providing. Go on, have a look-see. And if you're thinking to trade, I reckon we can come to a fair arrangement. Time and tide wait for no man.
Yes.
Still alive, are we?
Still working.
Time for an encore.
spent.
hear your poem. Marvelous. Oh, yes, yes, it's all here. Act 1, Scene 1. Along the shoreline, the beach grass sways. A blazing sun sinks 'neath sparkling bays. Oh, strange be the night when the drowned dead rise, and a pale moon ascends upon cold skies. The stranger still is lost to me, those silken pillows upon which I lay at sea. It's moody, atmospheric, not as funny as I remember. But I'm sure it gets better in Act 2. Regardless, you have my thanks. Please, take something for your efforts. And next time you're in town, do come and see the show. I'll leave your name at the door. If I can salvage a door from somewhere, that is. Still composing that